Hello and welcome to another episode of Mr. Mawater. A while back, I filmed my personal car, the Suzuki Jimny. That video got a lot of views. I was surprised how many views it got. Today, I have something new. I have finally upgraded after using my Jimny for almost 3 years and a half. I mentioned in that video that it was a bit down on power and torque, so I finally got the direct upgrade from the Suzuki Jimny, something as basic, almost as retarded, maybe even more retarded than Suzuki Jimny, but with a bigger body, a bigger engine under the hood, and basically more performance. This is the Toyota Land Cruiser LC70. The car has basically been the same for over 25 years. Nothing has changed. 2024 model, the only thing that changed is a facelift. Literally, the face got lifted. And it is more retro styled. It's more reminiscent of the older LC70s. They have again used these round headlights, the traditional grille with the Toyota lettering, and they have split the turn signal away from the central grille, giving it this retro modern look. And just like the Ram TRX, the letters are hollowed out for maximum ventilation. And underneath the Toyota lettering, you'll see this blocked off piece. This is where the radar comes on the higher spec models. Also new on the 24 model year is this engine cover. I don't know why, but they have beefed it up a little more. You see how bulky it looks, how inclined it is from this area, and it's much bigger in the front end. It looks weird how it dips and then goes back up. My reasoning or my understanding is maybe they did this, they lifted the hood so that it becomes more aerodynamic, so less air resists the straight windshield, and as a result gives you better fuel economy and sound insulation. But like I've said, this car has been the same for almost 30 years. Can you imagine this is 2024 and it still has this manual antenna? By the way, if you don't lift it up this way, you don't get any signal in the radio. So it's still extremely old school. And if that wasn't crazy enough, imagine this car still has an exposed fuel tank. It has a spare jerry can so that you can have additional fuel on your adventures. This car is used in many countries as a military vehicle, as an off-road safari vehicle. So this is the actual use of the car. The 75 or 80 liter fuel tank might not be enough. So this is where you have your spare. And it looks almost the same from behind. It has the same bumper as the older model and same tail lights. It's a very weird setup where you have the main lights in the bottom part and these more are decorative. You can even see how the left is different from the right. On the other side it's closed off and it's just a black panel that has no function. I think fog lights are somewhere over there. Probably the main tail lights are on the bottom just to match the Australian specifications. This car has so many weird design features. The weirdest feature is the track width of the car. First of all, on the rear, we still have leaf springs. This is like an industrial commercial vehicle, so they need the strength and durability of leaf springs. While in the front, it has normal suspension setup. But the weirder part is you'll find how the rear track width is narrower than the front. This is pushed inwards. There's like a negative offset, while this is pushed outwards. It's super weird, but there's a reason behind it. The reason is in some countries, in some continents, this comes with a V8 diesel engine. The V8 needs more space. They had a narrow body, so all they did to fit the V8 was increase the width of the front portion of the vehicle while maintaining the same rear end. As a result, the front axle is wider than the rear axle. And this looks super weird, especially when driving behind it. But of course, I'll be modifying it. I'll be fixing this issue later on. Speaking of engine, what engine have I gone for? In the GCC, we have two engine options. We have the 4-cylinder diesel, which has been recently introduced to the LC70, and we have the V6, which has been on this car for a long time. The engine is a workhorse. It's very well known. Naturally aspirated, no turbocharging, no forced induction, nothing. With a manual transmission, and that's the transmission I wanted. You can see how the space inside for the engine is massive. Let me find it. First of all, this is extremely heavy. It must weigh like 40 kgs at least. There's a strut bar somewhere. You can see some sand. The car has already been off-roading. And look how huge this space is for the engine. This is known as the 1GR FE. It's a very good, strong, solid, reliable engine. And the cooling on the LC70s is great. You have a huge space, all the space for the fan, for ventilation, for cooling. And the radiator sits up here in the front. And there is a huge room for updates and modifications if needed. Now, you just leave it and it shuts down. This engine puts out close to 230 horsepower and 360 Newton meters of torque. So that torque is what people love about this car. It's very torquey and it's very potent, so you can easily tune it, modify it to get a lot more torque and power out of the engine. The 2024 LC70 comes with a skid plate. It's an actual solid skid plate, and you have these solid side steps as well. Unfortunately, on the V6 manual option, you don't get all the features of the automatic diesel engine. I'm not sure why. The features are all on the automatic. Even if you get the V6 with an automatic, you get even more features than the manual. For example, you have the traditional headlights. On the automatic, you get the LEDs, and you have this bumper, which I think comes in chrome on the automatic. I really like how old school, old design this is, and you can see how you have like a seating area in the front of the bumper. Like imagine being in a cold weather somewhere where you are freezing outside. You just sit here and get the heat from the engine, which will help maintain your temperature. Now, before going inside and showing you the interior of the car, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this episode, which is Mandoos shoes. Mandoos is an Emirati shoes brand, and they have recently launched this cloud shoes. And as the name suggests, these are extremely light. Although they look like boots, they look big, but they are very comfortable, very lightweight. They are also hydrophobic, so if you spill some water, it will not stick on it. And they are oil and slip resistant. I will be using these shoes for off-roading purposes, and I really like how they are like resistant to sand. They are like socks from the top, so you won't be getting any sand inside through them. And the best part is easy access. Just one strap away from getting in and out of these boots. These are advertised as hunting shoes, which can be used in the desert. And the discount code for the viewers of this channel is CHD10. You'll find the link and everything in the description. Now, this car is extremely basic. They didn't even give the manual a remote control for access. You have to access manually using the Toyota key. They gave me 3 keys, which is fine. And check out how basic the interior is. You know how the McLaren Elva's party trick was the exterior being carried over to the interior? Well, look, the LC70 has that for almost 30 years. The exterior paint is all over the interior of the car. You will see how the interior looks unfurnished. The exterior paint is all over the interior of the car. And look at these seats. The manual only comes with these cheapo seats. I think they are fabric or some kind of weird material. And the weirdest part is the only leather bit is the headrest. I'm not sure why that is. Only the headrests in the car are leather. Everything else is fabric. Actually, the flooring is also in this weird looking leather material, and you can see all the buttons, and I don't know, you can uncover it and unwrap the flooring of the car. Very basic. We also have leather looking plastic, and the only change on this car is the steering wheel. We have an updated steering wheel. The older one was huge. I think anytime you made a full turn, you would honk. They made it smaller. This is borrowed with other Toyota vehicles, probably the Hilux. And of course, no cruise control, no features, nothing. Imagine, this car doesn't even have an RPM. The only gauges you have are speed, fuel, and temperature. That's about it. The car is so old and basic to the extent that you don't have speakers in the door panels. The speakers are somewhere in the dashboard over here. There are no speakers whatsoever. The only buttons you have are window controls. Thank God. We have auto windows and we don't have the rolling windows. This car is so old to the extent that you still have ashtrays in the back. This is such an old feature that classic cars had, and this LC70 2024 still has it. You have a weird looking storage space, and it's all 90s or 80s vibes on the interior. Now I've gone, as you've seen, for the 3-door, 2 doors and the other door in the back, and this 3-door has 4 or 5 seats. It's still considered a short wheelbase car, and I need the short wheelbase for off-roading, which is very good. And you still have good storage space. It's much bigger in terms of space than my Suzuki Jimny. And you can store quite a few things in the back. These guys have not put any effort whatsoever. Like, look at all the exposed wiring, exposed stuff. No need to cover anything, leave it as it is. Like, you have this leather looking flooring, and look, it's not even resolved properly. There's a hook that stops this from going in place. Like, they haven't given two craps whatsoever about the design and the interior. And that's what I love about the car. Like, you have traditional door handles for the rear door. It's so weird and it's so cool because of how weird it is. You have to give it some force to close and shut the doors. I love how high the car is. Seating position is great. You have extremely good visibilities. The windows are large. The seat doesn't go any lower. So if you're used to sports car or if you're used to being lower, this won't suit you. It's lifted way too much. It's lifted to the extent that the armrest is far. Look how far my elbow is from the armrest. So I'm probably gonna have to design something to make it more comfortable over here. Gear is in the perfect position, but look how many dead buttons you have. Tons of dead buttons, even the steering wheel. So you have a lot of room to fit maybe buttons for lights, buttons for traction, ABS, all of that shit. It's so basic, you don't even have mirror controls. The mirrors are adjusted manually. So you have to open and drop your window down to make any adjustments to the side mirrors, which is also something very weird. But thank God we have a digital screen. It works well, and all you have is radio, Bluetooth, and telephone. That's it, nothing else. Although the interior space is much bigger than a Suzuki Jimny, the surprising part is because the seats are lifted up, you don't have much headroom. I think the Suzuki Jimny has a lot more headroom than this Toyota LC70. There are so many missing features. I'm sure I forgot to mention a few. For example, you don't even have mirrors to see yourself, and you don't have auto headlights. You don't even have a temperature gauge for the exterior temperature. So just open the window and make a guess. This is, in summary, my new car. I spent on this car around 170,000 Emirati dirhams. I will show you the calculation on the screen of how much that is in US dollars. So it's quite expensive for what you get. It's very basic, so for that price, you'd expect to get a little bit more features than that. And hopefully in the future, I'm gonna drop another episode, a full-on review with a drive experience and probably an off-road driving review. What do you think? Do you like my new car? Do you like the color I went for? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Bye.